Today we're going to be talking about responsive images and how you can turn this into this with a new feature called auto sizes. Let's work through an example. Here's the page we're going to be working with. It's got a bunch of images on it, and right now, while our page's layout is responsive, and the images squish and stretch within it, we're not using any responsive image features in our markup. We're sending the same huge 1920 by 1280 images to everybody, no matter whether they're looking at the page on a tiny phone or on a huge 5K display. I'm looking at this right now on an old 1X display, so especially for these thumbnails, we're sending a lot of extra pixels over the wire that the browser just ends up throwing away. If I inspect one of these, we can see the scale of that. We have this tiny thumbnail. It's only 213 pixels wide on the layout right now, but we're sending a 1920 wide image that weighs a whopping 180 kilobytes, even though it's a highly compressed AVIF. Those wasted pixels translate into a lot of wasted bytes and a lot of wasted time. If I open up the performance panel in Chrome DevTools and we reload this, we can see we're loading 1.2 megabytes worth of resources. And if I throttle down to a slow mobile connection and reload again, we can see in the performance panel that our largest contentful paint is 6.5 seconds. Now Google calls a good largest contentful paint 2.5 seconds. So especially on this tiny example page where we're not even loading any other JavaScript or doing anything else to slow down the experience, 6.5 seconds is not good. We can fix this using the source set and sizes attributes, which let us send differently scaled versions of our image to different types of devices. First, let's tackle the source set. Cloudinary makes generating a bunch of different sizes of our image as easy as typing out a bunch of different URLs. So I'm going to go ahead and give browsers 7 different resolutions to choose from. In addition to our 1920 wide version, I've also added a 1280, a 960, a 640, a 480, a 320, and then last and literally least, a 240. Cool. So now I have a full source set written for the hero image. I'm going to go ahead and do that for all the rest of the thumbnails too, so bear with me here for a second. All right, so now every image element on our example page has a source set. And that's half of our responsive images solution. Next, we're going to have to write some sizes attributes. And I'm just going to say it, writing sizes attributes is the worst. They use the syntax that looks kind of like CSS, but isn't really CSS. They're hard to read, they're hard to write, and when I'm writing sizes attributes, I either go one of two directions. Sometimes I prioritize readability and maintainability. What that looks like is making some pretty wild approximations. Typing something like 80 VW in here that's going to be sort of right some of the time, and then I just hope for the best. Other times, I'll prioritize accuracy. When it's really important that we're making images as efficient as possible, I'll reach for one of my favorite responsive images tools, Resp Image Lint. Resp Image Lint is a bookmarklet, and once you've got it installed, you can run it on your website, and it'll just tell you what all the responsive images sizes attributes should be. So let's do that. I'm going to run the bookmarklet, and it'll spit out this report. And in that report, it'll tell me what all of the sizes attributes should be. So I can just copy and paste this out of this Resp Image Lint report, paste it into my markup, and there you have it. I have a completely accurate, all the time sizes attribute that I didn't have to write. But I do still have to maintain it. Going forward, anytime the layout of my page changes, someone's going to have to remember to rerun the Resp Image Lint report, recopy and paste the sizes attributes that it spits out back into the markup. Frankly, that's asking for trouble. So I'm here to tell you there's a better way. What if, instead of running a bookmarklet and copying and pasting a mysterious value into your markup, you could just write one word, auto? Well, good news, sizes equals auto is real and it's spectacular, but it does come with a couple of caveats. The first is, in order to measure the layout, the browser has to wait for layout. This means sizes equals auto only works when you're also using lazy loading. Second, for reasons that are kind of complicated, sizes equals auto more or less requires you to use the width and height attributes on the image element. Hopefully, you're already using width and height in order to prevent cumulative layout shifts. But just know that if you try to use sizes equals auto without width and height, you might have a bad time. Lastly, and this is kind of a doozy, sizes equals auto is Chrome only, for now. Safari and Firefox are both positive on this feature, they just haven't gotten around to implementing it yet. In the meantime, you can give a fallback sizes here after a comma, but for the purposes of our demo, we're not even going to bother. Okay, So let's go ahead and drop sizes equals auto along with loading equals lazy and the height and width attributes on all of our images. And now, if I save this and reload our page, we can see that for these thumbnails, we are loading a much smaller image. So now we're not loading the 1920 wide image, we're loading the tiniest 240 pixel wide image because our display dimensions are even slightly smaller than that. So we should be saving a ton of bytes here. If I run the developer tools, and refresh the page, we can see that we're only loading 95 kilobytes worth of image resources here, whereas before we were loading 1.2 megabytes. And if I go over to the performance panel here, again, we're throttled. We can see that the largest contentful paint has gone all the way down from 6 seconds to 2.6. Almost good. So is there anything we could actually do to get this over the line to make this good? Well, actually there is. I love auto sizes and lazy loading, but there is such a thing as too much of a good thing. Sizes equals auto and lazy loading are great, but lazy loading the LCP image here is actually a really bad idea. When you lazy load your LCP image, you're telling the browser to wait to start loading it until after layout is complete. That could take ages. It's usually a better idea to load too many pixels with a giant head start than to wait until the layout is a known entity before even starting to send the LCP pixels over the wire. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to remove sizes equals auto and, more importantly, loading equals lazy from this hero image and just put that approximate sizes back in and save, reload. And if we look at the developer tools now, we're in a much better place. We're in that good threshold. Much better, even on a slow mobile connection. So that's sizes equals auto and how you can use it in combination with Cloudinary and source set to kind of have your cake and eat it too, authoring responsive images that are easy to read, easy to write, simple to maintain, and as performant as possible. Thanks so much.